Okay, so now that we have this prepared, what we'll be able to do is simply right-click over the tab and use Move or Copy. We'll select Move to End and create a copy. Click OK. And now you should see the copy to the right. Select it, then double-click and rename it. We'll call this A-1 Floor Plan. All right. When we're ready to do A2, we'll just copy this one again. So, focusing on A1 floor plan, one thing you want to keep in mind here is take a look at your layers. Remember that your layers behave differently in the layout model as they behave in the layout paper as well as in the regular model space. So, take a look to see that you have all your layers on and thawed. Find your viewport layer, and what you'll be able to do is cut a window into your model. Okay? Make room for your tables right here, and since we're only going to be using one viewport, we'll be able to utilize the information block here for all of that drawing information. So just using MV, make viewport, okay, you can just click the 2 points that define the boundary of your viewport. Now notice we just get a default view. And you start to see everything that's in the model. Okay, if I switch over to the model, take a look at your layers here and make sure, okay, before you proceed, that everything that you want to be able to see here in the model as well as in the paper is on and thawed. Okay, that means both of these buttons, the first two buttons, are yellow. Now the only other things that you know that you don't want to freeze, you can go ahead and freeze, such as your construction line layers, and that way they won't show up anywhere. Now, if we return to the paper, okay, now we're going to be working with layout model and layout paper. Work in layout paper to update your title block and to insert and update your table. Work in layout model to adjust the view and scale and the layer settings for your floor plan view. I can do this if I double click within the borders of the viewport, or if I double click outside of it, I can return to paper. You can also look down here at the status bar and you should see your model or paper space buttons. If you do not see this button, simply right click and make sure you check this box right here. Okay, that way if you're in the layout paper, you can switch to the layout model and vice versa. Okay, so within the layout model here, you're going to be able to set the scale. In this case we have 1/4 inch, and then you can use your middle button to pan, right, to get the view that you want centered properly within that area. Now you may have other information here that does not need to be shown. Well, now you can use your layer tools. Okay, when you're in layout model and you use this freeze tool, what it does automatically is it uses this option for that layer. So it freezes the information only for this viewport and allows it to be visible for all others. So this way I can use freeze and freeze information that I don't need to see. Now also, as I'm working here, I may want to freeze the viewport so it doesn't change scale or orientation. That way I can still zoom in but not change my view. Again, with freeze, I'm not going to show the stairs here. I'm not going to show some of this notation or the roof. I don't need to show this section here, but I need to show my labels, my door and window markers. I want to show my fixtures and my plumbing fixtures. And also, if you zoom in closer, you should be able to see your base wall and your finish wall for both the interior and exterior walls. Now keep in mind again, you'll notice based on the color table that we're using and using line weight, okay, that if you have not updated your plot style colors, if it comes out this way, that's fine. If you don't want to show this much detail, you can also simply freeze for this viewport the A-wall comp layer. That way you can only see the base walls, and that's fine, because if you think about it, right, when you do your dimensioning, you're always doing it to the base wall. So you can have it either way, right? Show the detail or don't show the detail, but if you're going to show the detail, make sure you update your plot styles so you have clarity. Okay, now that we've checked that we have the right view, the right scale, the right information, you should be done with this viewport. Return to the paper space, and now you can focus your attention where you're going to put the door and window schedule. If we take a quick look again, we can see here that we'll be able to use the same table style for both schedules. Okay, these are two schedules. If you create one, you can simply duplicate and replace the information for the other. Now you'll notice, even though the window schedule has only 4 columns while the door schedule has 5, all you'll need to simply do is insert another column. Okay, I'll show you how we'll be able to include the symbols that represent the door and window markers, and then you'll simply use the text tools to insert the information that you see there. So let's turn our attention to the Annotate tab, and you'll look here to Tables. Take a look at your Table Style Manager. Now, if you're using the template, you should have a table style called a table. If you do not have this table, you can still create a new one, and I'll show you right now what the settings should be. You can see in this preview that I have my title, my header, and my data cell styles visible. You can see that the table itself is magenta, but some of the text here is red. So I'll show you how we did that. If I come over here to modify, you'll see again the preview on the left. You'll notice here the table direction. This is top down, right? This is where you would change that. This is the only time that you probably would need to have a different table style. Also, up here in the upper right corner, you'll see the cell styles. For example, if I start with title, you have border, text, and general properties to format. Make sure you show the border, right? Notice here, there's no border around the title. Make sure you show border all around the title, as well as the header and the data. For the text, here you can see I've selected Title 2, which is 23/128 in size. And so if you wanted that to be different, you can just use a different text style. If you don't have one already created, use the text style button right here to return to the text style manager. And just make sure that you use an annotative text style. You can create a new text style and assign it whatever font you'd like, but make sure here you give it the paper text height that you want it to print. So, if I look at general, this is also for alignment. You can see all of them should be set to middle center. If I look at the next item here, header, you can see middle center. The text is using A-dims and it's set to 1/8. Here you can see how the color is different for the text. And also the borders all around. And then finally, if we look at data here, borders all around. And again, we're using A-dims, but this is 3/32 text. And then general, middle center. So go ahead and play with this, but make sure you make it legible. Don't make it too tall. You can change the font styles if you like, but remember sans serif, or you can use the architect's fonts. Okay, so that's our table style. Now we're ready to actually create the table. There's a couple ways that we can do this. Return to the table, and you're going to use this button now. This is to insert a table. When I activate that command, you can see on the left side here what table style I'm using. Okay? You could also link to an external data table, right? This is something that could be created with Excel. Here again is your preview. Now you have two different ways to insert the table. You can specify an insertion point and predefine the number of columns, their average width, as well as the number of data rows here. I would not change here the cell styles, right? Just keep them the same. Another way is to simply specify a window which will allow you to define 2 points to resize the window dynamically. And here you can preset the number of columns and the row heights. So if we do it either way, if I click OK here, you'll notice that what I want to do is be near the title block but not on top of it. You'll always be able to resize the table. So if I just start on the left click and stretch, you'll notice as I go down and to the right, I create more rows and I'm just stretching the columns. Okay. When I do the second click, what you see, here's the table title, which for example we'll do window schedule here. Then if you use tab, you can go to the next cell. This will be your first header, and this should be number, tab. We can go quantity, you can abbreviate to, tab again, we'll have size, tab for description. Now, if you want to resize the columns, I would suggest you use the top labels. You could do that here by clicking on the label. You should see the grips. Grab the grip and you can stretch it left or right. If you want to make the table bigger, click in the top left-hand corner here and then grab the grips, pulling left or right. Okay, so you're going to be stretching and playing with that. Also, if you want to make the rows a certain height, okay, what you could do here is stretch the row, or stretch one row, the top row preferably. Okay, you can stretch it here. You can, let's see, if I right-click next to the row label, right, you can also change styles here. But if I right-click in the cell, here you get more options, right? So you could also do data formatting. And if you look here at rows and columns, right, this is where you can insert or delete or size equally. Let me see, I don't know if that's in the video. Let me try that again. So if I just select the cell or the entire row, and if I right click over the cell, then you'll be able to see that, right? Rows, size equally. So if I want them all to be sized to this size right here, select the row, right click over the cell, use rows, size equally. And we have to select all of them here to do that. So rows, size, rows equally. And there you go. If you need to adjust, you can use move and snap to the endpoints there. As you continue, in this cell we're going to enter the block symbol. If you look here, this is the block symbol. How do I know where to select it? How do I know what's its name? What I would tell you here is do this. Now remember, we've locked the viewport, so we can easily double click, right? We're in the model. Here's the multi-leader style, and if I take a look by using properties, I can see the name of the multi-leader style. Okay, if you scroll down, you'll also be able to see what is the source block, right? You don't see the name here, but now that I know the multi-leader style, what I could do is go back to multi-leader, right? Find the multi-leader style, modify, and then when you go here to content, you'll see here source block is called window callout. That's what I'll want to put into my schedule. So just double check that, right? Whatever marker you use, double check what is the source block used. So in this case, now if I exit, come back to the paper, highlight the cell, right click over the cell, use insert, and here you'll select block. Then use the pull down and you'll be able to scroll and find window callout. Now, a couple things here. Check your alignment. Make sure you make it middle center and also auto fit. That way, if you make changes, right, to the row height, it'll resize automatically. Do this for each of those symbols, and once you click OK, you'll see you'll enter the number. So here this should be W1. Click OK, and just to show you one more time, I'll put W2 here. If I right click, insert, block, Again, window callout, auto fit, middle center, click OK, and then adjust the value. Window 2. Okay? Now, you'll notice here, I only have 2 windows, so if I need to adjust this, I can just select all the rows that I don't want, right click, and then we could do row delete. Okay? If I was going to make the door schedule, simply select the table, use copy, copy selection, and then you could just replace the information. Notice here for your symbols, when I use delete, that's how I can get rid of it. Okay? And once again, just to show you here, if I double click into the model space, select the multi-leader, look at your properties, and you can see it's using door multi-leader, and if you look down, you can see the source block is called hexagon. So here, if I return to the paper, zoom extents, and I want to show that here, select the cell, right click, insert block, scroll down or scroll up to tag hexagon. Use middle center and auto fit, and then you could just enter the value. Once you completed that, double check all your information as well. Check your information block here, put in your name, the date, the sheet number, and the scale for the floor plan, and then make sure that you freeze your viewport layer. Okay? Don't freeze it now because we still have to work with the elevations. We'll do that next.